Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Az and I am joined by Sam, and Sam is not too happy with me because we've got a new kind of technical issue which involved me forgetting to press go live. So we were actually just talking to ourselves for 5 minutes, weren't we, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I've already answered a question on Harvey Barnes, so I'm afraid that I physically can't do it again.
Oh god, yeah. Sorry everyone. Yeah, that's why we're late. It's not big time technical issues. I have got no excuse other than I just forgot to press the button. Anyway, we're here now. We are live. Sam has confirmed we're live as well, so it's definitely happening. Yeah, I'm not fully match fit. That's my only excuse. I'm not really too sure of what I'm doing at the moment, but we'll get through, won't we? It'll be fine. So just before we come on to that, I just want to talk a little bit about FANTEAM. So Fantasy Football Scout partnered with FANTEAM this year. If you haven't checked them out already, there's a link and stuff in the description. It's a really good time to get involved in FANTEAM because it's the late registration teams you can make. So basically you get 95% of the average points and you can basically build a wildcard team. So if you want Lukaku, Benrahma, all the guys that you probably didn't start with in FPL, unless you're very clever, you can get those in as everyone else is kind of scrambling to get them and making loads of hits. There's also the Monster event. So the Monster event's really cool. It's a weekly thing FANTEAM do where you basically build a team for that 1 week. €15,000 prize pool, €2,000 first place prize. It's only €2 to enter, but this week it's free for new members. So if you haven't got a FANTEAM account, you can sign up and you get a free ticket. So why not get involved in that? Again, see description for links and a bit more information. So it's a way to make money using FANTEAM, using your fantasy football knowledge. But remember, FANTEAM is gambling. You do need to be 18 plus, and of course, be gamble aware. Right, Sam, let's try this again. Back to the questions, and we've had some really good questions. €2,000 this week, which is really nice. If you do want your questions answered, you can post on the hot topic on site, or you can post on Twitter, or you can ask in the chat right now, and I will try and answer them. But we've had lots of questions, so the best way to guarantee your question will be answered is to ask on one of those platforms. Right, Sam, I just want you to repeat everything you were just saying about Harvey Barnes, because that has been a question from SKFPL, Sanchi on site, Footy Boot. Do we keep Harvey Barnes against Norwich, or do we sell for Benrahma, Raphinha? I've already made a decision on this because I had Barnes, and I'll say what I've done in a second. But yeah, what do you think?
I mean, I've got a serious case of deja vu going on now, but I think with Harvey Barnes, it's really hard to sell him ahead of a game against Norwich. There's a few elements that play here. First of all, going into the season, the reason I don't have him is because I was concerned about his fitness and his ability to play 90 minutes over the course of these opening few fixtures. I was kind of a bit worried that he might get 60, kind of building up fitness, getting back into the game again. And then game week 1, game week 2, Leicester were awful in game week 2, really disappointing. But then, of course, we're down to 10 men, so that's going to have a big influence on that. I expect that they will bounce back against Norwich in game week 3. I do really like the look of the guys that you've just mentioned. Benrahma in particular, I think would, even though in a normal match week, I'd say you hold Harvey Barnes, the fixture's too nice to sell him ahead of. Benrahma also has a really nice fixture, but has the form to kind of back that up as well. So if it was a choice between Benrahma and Barnes, I'd do it. I'm not sure I would go to Raphinha though. Probably hold him instead.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that is what I've done. I looked at Benrahma and just thought the fixture's similar in terms of, I mean, you know, Palace are, I think, maybe a little bit better defensively than Norwich, but it's at home, good fixture for them. The form he's in, the partnership he's got with Antonio. I'm just not sure if Barnes is going to play. I think that's the biggest problem. And we've got Ben Foster in the chat again. Had him yesterday. Ben Foster's there. Congratulations on the clean sheet yesterday, Ben. Shame you can't be playing in the Premier League as well because we could use a 4 million goalkeeper like you.
Definitely could.
And I mean Ben was asking yesterday because I think he's got Iheanacho in his team and what to do with him. And I actually think there's more chance of Iheanacho coming in this week than there is with Barnes playing, because with Perez out, they're going to be quite unbalanced. If they stick with Barnes, they might have to push Pereira up. They haven't got too many like wide players, and I think we could see him going 5 at the back with Nacho and Vardy up front. Complete speculation, but there's just too much of a risk around him. And you said it perfectly. We were worried at the start of the season what his minutes would look like, and that's happened. 60, 70 minutes subbed, but I just think with his price going down, with Benrahma going up, with the form he's in, the form West Ham are in, it was a bit of a no-brainer move for me. Raphinha, though, I think you're right. I think Raphinha's a more difficult one. I mean, Footy Boot hasn't got Barnes, he's got Buendia. What do you think about Buendia? Because a good fixture, but showing nothing at the moment.
No, but I don't think you can sell Buendia ahead of that Brentford game. Like, Aston Villa are building something. Like, lots of new players to that squad. Obviously, they'd lost Jack Grealish over the summer, but they've definitely compensated for him going. They've signed some really quality players. We haven't seen a lot from Bailey yet on his kind of arrival at the club. And I do think that when Watkins is back and Buendia and Bailey and Danny Ings all together play, they will be a really solid attacking unit. Now, from Buendia so far, he has disappointed in terms of what we were all expecting over the opening 3 game weeks of the season. But I think if you went with him from game week 1, you bought him for game weeks 1, 2 and 3. And it's very difficult to then sell him ahead of this Brentford fixture. I think after Brentford, it's an easy sell and a move elsewhere. But at this point, I would be tempted to just hold fire on him, but I wouldn't be bringing him in ahead of this fixture.
Agree. I think if I had Buendia, I'd keep. If I had, unless it was for Benrahma, I think Benrahma is pretty much entering into that thing where you just need to move for him now. Anyone else, like if you're moving Buendia to Rafinha, I think you can probably hold on for a week, and maybe the same with Barnes. Although I don't mind the Burnley fixture for Leeds. I think Rafinha could do okay. I think if I already had Benrahma, I think I would be tempted to move Barnes down to Rafinha, but I probably wouldn't with Buendia. That's quite we agreed on that.
What is this ads? Are we actually agreeing on stuff?
We're agreed, and we've given like quite a definitive answer to a question as well. So
I know
we've done quite well there. Ben has.
That's because we had a dress rehearsal.
Yes, that's very true. We do that every week. I just forget to press go live, and then we do it. Ben has sold in that show, by the way. I think long term that's definitely sensible. I just wonder if
I would do that
if he will start against Norwich. But yeah, I think long term wise, there's some such good options around that price. You know, with Antonio there, with Calvert-Lewin, with Ings, and then, moving up to Lukaku and stuff. So, yep. Nuclear Atoms, regular in the chat, asked this on Twitter. How do you strike a balance between bringing a player who has short-term good fixtures and someone who will come good in the long run? I wonder who this is referring to. I think it might be referring... short-term good fixtures. I guess you can flip it around for Lukaku as well. Obviously, we've had a lot of questions about Lukaku as well. We'll answer Nuclear's first. So... How many sort of game weeks in advance do you look at? Do you look for a kind of a 3 or 4 game week run where you think, okay, I can get this player in this and get them off? Or is it someone like Rafinha who you think, okay, I want to keep them all season, so I'll get them in early?
It's a bit of both, I think. In the early part of the season, I do like to try and pre-season plan for a bulk of fixtures and think, right, I want to make as few transfers as possible in these opening weeks. So who do I think has got stability in my team over maybe game weeks 1 through 5. But at this point, a couple of game weeks into the season, we now have a real clear understanding of who's got the form, and those form players with nice fixtures. So the West Ham boys are a prime example of that, are ones that you definitely should be moving on. I mean, their fixtures do take a massive turn for the worst around game week 7 at the same sort of time as their Europa League commitments kick in. So I think you hold them for then, knowing that then you move them on. So I'm kind of always looking for a plan with all of them. There are very few players that I buy that I think are guaranteed to stay in my team for the whole season. Mostly it's premium picks. So Salah and Bruno, I can't see myself selling them regardless of what happens with their fixtures. But everyone else kind of comes in with the potential for a few weeks. And then if, like, say, Stuart Dallas last season, they do incredibly well, then they just stay more than I've planned for them to.
Benrahma could be that, right? I think at 6 million.
Could.
That's 6 million. Yeah. He's going to be, and we're going to have a lot of value tied up in him as well. If he can keep, he doesn't need to be getting double-digit points every week. He just needs to be ticking over with an assist here and there and a goal and stuff. And I think he's capable of doing that over the season. So he's just one. I mean, Rafinha is the one, isn't it? Because at the start of the season, Leeds' fixtures were pretty poor, but everyone kind of knew that Rafinha was going to be a bit of a bargain at 6.5. So I think a lot of people went for Buendia, because he had those first 3 games. And now they're regretting it because now they're looking to switch over to Rafinha. And it's like, okay, maybe the long-term move here would have been better. But equally, if Buendia had done well in those first 3, then it's worth it. It's a very tricky one to get right. But yeah, I think we're going to start seeing some fixture changes soon. Wolves are happening in game week 4. So the likes of Semedo, Traore with his amazing stats, Jimenez. These might not be players who you want all season, but you might want to pick up just for the kind of good run that they've got. So yeah, I think short term, I always try and look. You just can't plan. You just can't plan 10, 15, 20 game weeks down the line. So you can only plan really for I think 3 or 4 weeks. So yeah, that's my plan. One for you, Sam. This is a good one for you, and I'm interested in this. At Yassin Jelti, Dyer. The question is simple. What about Dyer? I'm interested to know what you think about Spurs backline in general. I mean, 2 clean sheets. I don't know how they kept a clean sheet against Wolves. Absolutely no idea. Reguilon's attacking stats are awful, and he was someone that I was looking at. And I wonder what's going to happen when Romero comes in. Does Dyer move up to midfield? Does Sanchez drop out? What do you reckon about the Spurs defence?
Oh, the Spurs defence. So I don't think Dyer will drop out. I think it will be Sanchez. I mean, Sanchez, they were looking to sell in pre-season, but he has performed incredibly well over the first couple of game weeks. So he's kind of proved a point, I guess, to Nuno and seems to have settled in there. But would expect him to be replaced by Romero once he's fully fit and ready to go. I think Eric Dyer has always been a bit of a managerial favourite at centre-back. And last season, I think we kind of went with Eric Dyer at the beginning of the season when Spurs fixtures were nice, thinking that he would get kind of longevity in the team, but Spurs weren't really defensively that solid. But what we've seen this season is a massive change in the way that Spurs are playing in general, particularly since Ollie Skip's come back from his loan move at Norwich last season. He and Højbjerg together in the midfield are much more dominant than we've had in previous seasons. So with the two of them together, the defence has a lot more protection. And of course, with Hugo Lloris in goal, who's been phenomenal in the opening 2 game weeks of the season, we have a much more stable unit, I guess, is the way I would look at it. So for me, Dyer is somebody that I would absolutely be looking at, because the benefit of having a 4.5 million Spurs defender is that you're quite happy to bench them and have them as a rotation pair with somebody else in that 4.5 bracket. If you get Reguilon at 5.5, you know, you've got at 5, you feel a bit more like you've got to play him every week. Whereas with the 4.5s, you're happy enough to kind of rotate them around. So I actually quite like the look of the Spurs defence. I think the fixtures look okay. I mean, there's a couple of difficult London derbies coming up against Chelsea and, well, I was going to say against Arsenal, but let's see what happens with Arsenal. But otherwise, the fixtures look quite nice for Spurs, and then they get a bit more difficult again before they get really lovely in game week 13 onwards. So, yeah, I'm quietly optimistic about the Spurs defence this season. I think that there's some value in there for us as FPL managers.
So Dyer would be your Spurs defender of choice?
Probably, yeah, because I think with Reguilon, I really like Reguilon, and he is a player that I keep looking at and I keep pondering on, and I keep looking at Luca Dean and thinking I'm going to take you out and put Reguilon in instead. But the cheapness of Eric Dyer, the fact he goes up for set pieces, so there's some attacking potential there from him, makes me lean towards him at the moment.
So bearing in mind we've got Ben Foster in the chat, how do you think Spurs are going to do against Watford?
I'm going on Sunday. Ben Foster's not going to play, I doubt. No. So if he was playing, it might be a totally different kettle of fish. But I suspect Spurs, it's always a good game, Spurs and Watford. It's a bit of a local derby. So it'll be nice to see that. I think Spurs will win the game. Do I think they'll clean sheet? I don't know. Watford have started the season really well. They've had some good attacking threat from their players. I really like the look of Ismail Assar. He was great in the Premier League last time around, and again has come up and been good this time around. Managed
him well, and Watford in general. It was a bit of coming back down to earth, I think, for them after they were so good against Villa. But Sarr still looked pretty bright against that. And it's going to be Sarr v Reguilon, right?
It is, yeah. I just think the way Spurs are performing at the moment, it's been a good start to the season. I guess we're going to find out in the next couple of days whether Harry Kane's going to be available to start that game. That will make a big difference, obviously, to morale and just general ethos at Spurs when all of this drama is dealt with. I think it will be a Spurs win. I hope it will be a Spurs win, but I wouldn't put it past Watford to score, to be honest, against Spurs. I think the way that Spurs give away a lot of shots to the opposition, but the shots that they give away tend to be the lower quality shots. They tend to make them shoot from difficult angles, that sort of thing. So, but Watford have the players, they've got tricky players who can take on shots from that angle and do well from them. So be a really interesting game, this one. Do I think Spurs will clean sheet? Maybe not. But will they get one against Crystal Palace in game week 4? Probably. So I think Eric Dyer has potential to invest in for the next few weeks.
Eric, I was not expecting you to give such a passionate sort of, I don't know what the word is.
That was a bit weird.
Endorsement of Eric Dyer. It's
It's something I never really do. I never really back the Spurs defence, but I do think Ollie Skipp's involvement in the team has made such a difference that I'm a bit more confident about our defence this year.
I thought you'd be Reggie on through and through. I really did. So, yeah, okay.
Eric Dyer. Love a bit of Reggie.
Eric Dyer, there you go. Sam's hot tip. At Ashwin SN03, simple question, Ings to DCL. What do you reckon on that?
Oh, this one's really hard. I don't know what you think about this, but again, it goes back to what I said about Buendia, I think, because you bought Buendia for game weeks 1, 2 and 3. So why would you then sell him ahead of the Brentford fixture? Like, for me, Ings to Calvert-Lewin, yes, but I'd do it after game week 3.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think you can sell Ings before Brentford. I mean, I know Brentford's defensive numbers have been good, but you've got to think they're going to get, and they're not going to stay this good all season. They're surely going to get brought down to earth at some point. The trouble is Villa's attacking stats aren't good either. So it's all set up really for quite a low scoring game. But I just think with Danny Ings, 2 goals now in 2 games. I mean, he just scored an overhead kick. He's going into this game full of confidence. They're going to look to get the ball to him as much as they can. Brighton should make it fairly difficult for Everton as well. So yeah, We'll see. Just don't know if you can see the chat, Sam, but Ben Foster is now stirring everyone up to try and convince us that Ronaldo is moving to City. But I saw his original message, which said, "Can we stir the chat up so they think Ronaldo's going to City?" Which has kind of ruined the thing. But nice try, Ben. But
to be honest, I'd be quite happy with that because that means I'll leave Kane alone.
Yeah. Well, actually, do you know what? We can even touch on that because I have a question which is from FPL Pensioner. Which transfer or proposed transfer gets you most excited for football reasons or for FPL reasons? So Ronaldo, I mean, okay, let's Ben stirred this up now, so we might as well talk about it.
Going to Watford? Is that what Ben's trying to tell us?
No, to City. He's I don't think I'd be pretty impressed if he moved to Watford, but I mean he's not going to move to City, but a striker at City, for example, whether it be Ronaldo, Kane, would that get you excited, or do you think there's maybe a case to wait on it now?
I think any City player, any proper striker that goes to City needs to be seriously considered from an FPL perspective, because that is the one place where they've looked a bit lacking over the last couple of weeks. They were much, much better against Norwich in game week 2, but I still feel like they missed that focal point. He didn't even play Jesus up there. It played him out on the wing. So I think if they sign a forward, then it makes absolute perfect sense to go there. But the issue I have is that the kind of forward that they're going to sign, they're either going to get Kane or they're going to bring in a big name. You would have thought there's not many other big names available other than Kane and Ronaldo.
Aubameyang's being linked as well.
Aubameyang.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just saying they're being linked with everyone left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
I don't know who they're going to get, but
no. But if they get somebody, then you've got to seriously consider it. But then that puts you up against Lukaku at Chelsea, who also think is going to be really popular and an important FPL option for this season. So deciding who you go with is hard, but I think if City sign a forward, you're going to be very hard pushed to not go there. Because, so I did podcast the other day and I was talking about how at some other clubs, like Chelsea, for example, if you don't buy Lukaku, you can invest. There are players like Mount, like Reece James, if he continues to start, where you could double up for nearly the same price. And they're going to offer you good returns over the course of the season. At Manchester City, if they sign Kane, and you buy him, he's probably going to return more minutes than most of the rest of the squad, the way that Pep rotates them. And there's less obvious other picks across that team that you could kind of get instead of, if that makes sense. So, and I think that's the way FPL is going to be played this year. You're going to be looking at who's the premium at that club and can I go without them if I double up somewhere else from within that team? I think you can at Chelsea. I don't know that you could at City.
I agree. I mean, at the moment, you look at kind of the essential players, with quote marks on, you think at Chelsea and it's Lukaku, you think of United, it's Fernandes, you think of Liverpool and it's Salah, you think of City, and because De Bruyne is not really there and not really fit, there's no one, right? Like, Grealish, Mahrez, Gundogan, like Torres, these are all like good options, but they're not players that you need to have in your team necessarily. But I think Kane moving changes everything, and I know you don't want to hear it, but from an FPL perspective, I think that would be something that excites me FPL wise, because it means that people need to make decisions. You can't have Fernandes, Salah, Lukaku, and Kane. You're going to have to go without at least one of them. So it opens the game up. And at the moment, when the template's so strong, I think it's kind of what it needs, really.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think, to be honest, if Kane gets back into the Spurs team week upon week, if he doesn't move and he stays with Spurs, then if he plays like he did last season, then he's in that conversation anyway. So I guess the more interesting conversation is if somebody arrives from abroad and throws the template out the window with another premium pick. That's where things could get really interesting.
Yep. Right. Talking of premium picks, let's move on to the big question, who is, of course, Lukaku. So loads of questions of these. Picking on site, Anneli Storell says, does Lukaku break or make your team? The units ask when to bring in Lukaku, and is he worth going for over Son? Mark's brought him in. I can confirm Lukaku has been brought into Mark's team for a -4. He is not worried about the fixtures. He is confident he's going to score every game. He's got rid of Tony. He's got rid of, and his 2 City midfielders, Torres and Mahrez.
Okay.
So he's had a proper mini wildcard, much more exciting than the moves I've made this week. So Black Box should be tonight and yours yet. So he's got, at least we've got something to talk about. But yeah, so he's moved early. We're going to be talking about it a lot tonight. But what do you make? First, what do you make of that move? I mean, do you think even with the fixtures, Lukaku is someone that we should be considering, or are you happy to wait till Game Week 7?
Oh, I'm not happy. I think that when he arrived, I said that I thought I would wait because, Lukaku in the Premier League have had a bit of a up and down relationship in the past. Hasn't always been the most consistent player when he's been in the Premier League, but was phenomenal abroad. So I was kind of like, we'll wait it out. They've got, what looks on paper in the early part of the season to be a difficult fixture against Arsenal. There's some other really tough games in there. Liverpool, Spurs are in there. They're going to be tough games. Within 5 minutes of watching that game against Arsenal at the weekend, I was like, what am I doing about Lukaku? Yeah. Like, how is he coming into my team? Because he just looked so good. But it does mean a total rip-up start again of the rest of my team. And I'm not sure how I feel about that at the moment. Whereas and like I said a minute ago, I do look at the Chelsea squad and I think there are so many players in there that I would really like to own. Mason Mount I don't have at the moment. And I would really like to own Mason Mount. He was in my plan for Game Week 7. I was like, well, I'll invest in him plus whichever Chelsea defender is most nailed at that point. They will be my 2 Chelsea players from 7 onwards. But Lukaku throws a spanner in the works because he's going to score, well, he'll be up there, won't he, with top goal scorer this season, you would think. Not owning him feels like he's going to become one of those players, a bit like Bruno and Salah, that you kind of talk about as being very important picks, and not having him will be difficult. So I think he could potentially break my team, but by owning him, he'll probably make it. It's
just timing, isn't it? It's just the timing of it. It's whether we move now, like Mark's done, and Liverpool next is tough, but you got to think he can score against anyone. He's one of the world's
against
best.
Virgil van Dijk, like one of the best defenders in the world.
I think Liverpool's a tough one, but then he's got Villa, Spurs. I mean, I wouldn't back
against Eric Dyer.
Yeah, one of the best defenders in the world. I mean, I wouldn't back against Lukaku scoring in any game. So
no, I agree.
He's probably not someone that you're going to captain necessarily the next few weeks, but if you're going to be captaining Salah or Antonio, for example, then you've got him in place. And it probably means if you get him in early, it means you haven't got to hit that wildcard button in 7, which I think so many people are going to be doing, which is where I've got it lined up for. 3 Chelsea, maybe dropping Fernandes because the United fixtures turn a bit
tough,
which is difficult. But maybe Trent can go because he's going to be 7.5 and really expensive. We've got to have ways of being able to get him and there's going to be lots of different strategies that people use to do it. I think personally, especially given that his price seems to be locked at the moment a little bit because he's had the move, I think you wait, particularly this week. I mean, Villa next week could be a real target. International break, if you've got 2 free transfers, could be a bit of a rejig there. But I think this week I would potentially hold out. But I can see why Mark's done it, given that he had Torres and Mahrez to deal with, and he's got rid of Tony as well. So he's 3 problems in his team. He's pretty much addressed with one big move, and he's now ahead of the curve. So
yeah,
I like his moves. It depends on your team, but for me, I think if you can wait, then wait.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
So moving from premium assets to the complete other end of the spectrum, Kobe, One and Kamsi. Here's a really exciting question for you, Sam. Livramento or Shane Duffy?
Oh, well, that was one of my transfers in this week, was a 4.0 defender, so it's kind of appropriate.
Yep.
And I went backwards and forwards on this one quite a lot, but I have obviously got a Brighton goalkeeper. So having Sanchez in goal made me kind of a bit reluctant to double up on the Brighton defence. I know there's a lot of worries across the community, and obviously you know better than me because you're a Brighton fan, but I don't share the worries that some of the community have about his minutes in terms of Duffy, because I think whilst Lamptey's out, Veltman will sit in his position, which means Duffy will play. Maybe there's a conversation to be had when Lamptey eventually comes back, but Lamptey's been coming back for
this is the problem,
9 months now, and we still haven't seen him. So I think Duffy's position in that Brighton team is fairly secure until we eventually re-see Lamptey. With Livramento, you do have the potential upside that he can play in midfield. So we could see him in a bit of a Dallas role if they want to switch back to playing Kyle Walker-Peters. So there is a little bit more potential there in terms of attacking threat. And he did go on some runs against Manchester United last weekend, which made me kind of go, oh, this is interesting. If you're prepared to do this against Manchester United, then against other sides, you could easily get some goal return or some assist potential there from him. So I've gone Livramento on the basis that I don't see myself wanting to own another Southampton player. So he's not going to be a block in my team. I don't want to double up defensively with Brighton because it frustrates me when the clean sheets do go, particularly how they did in game week 1. So it's kind of like, I feel like Livramento is fine, and I'm happy to bench him. That's the other thing, is a 4.0 playing defender. So I don't feel like if they've got a difficult fixture, just won't play them that week.
Yep. Well, I also moved for Livramento as well.
Yeah.
Really exciting transfer. I've got 2 Brighton defenders already, though, because I've got Veltman and Sanchez. So the triple up was kind of not on. Yeah, I mean, loads of people have been asking me about Duffy's prospects. I think Duffy is going to play the next 5 games. I can't see.
Yeah, I do too.
I just don't think Lamptey's near at the moment. He's got so many hamstring complaints. Even when he's back to fully training and fully fit, he's going to be eased back into the side. His game is all about acceleration, burst of acceleration. That's why it puts so much pressure on his hamstrings. So he needs to be 100%, or he's just going to tweak it again. So they're going to ease him back. He'll probably get some cup games. He might get some, behind closed doors, which a lot of teams are doing now at the moment. So I mean, but Duffy's biggest threat is Dan Burn, who's now been confirmed as having to go to a specialist for extra care on something that happened to him pre-season. So I can't see any way in which Duffy doesn't play for a fairly significant amount of time. The best thing about Duffy is, even though, Brighton's you might have Sanchez already, or Brighton's fixtures are a bit up and down, he's got that attacking threat. He is the most unbelievable attacking defender ever, because all the balls are crossed into him. He's such so dominant in the air, and I think he had the most shots from all defenders in game week 1, scored in game week 2. So even if you're having to play him, if he comes off the bench, I still think he can get a goal.
One thing I would say about both of these guys is that I actually don't think there's anything wrong with having both of them.
No.
Obviously, at the moment, so I still got Simicast in my team at the moment because I was waiting for that all-important price rise before I took him out. And I am seriously considering having 2 4.0 defenders, because I want to use that money across the rest of my team, and it's enabling me to strengthen my midfield, to strengthen the other parts of my pitch, which I think were a little bit lacking early on because of having gone for 3 big premiums in midfield to start the season. So in having Duffy and Livramento, that's freeing up another $1 million, and that extra $1 million can be used so much better in my view, across the midfield and across the forward line to what it can be by going for 4.5 million defenders at the moment while they're both playing. So don't rule out owning both of them.
I completely agree. And the 4.5 options aren't amazing. I'm looking at the 4.5s. I think you're right. I think Dyer probably is the standout 4.5.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, Eiling, Leeds don't look that great defensively. Veltman's injured. Ben White's had all this coronavirus stuff and Arsenal looked terrible. So I really do think, at pre-season we were worried we didn't have any 4 million options. We've now got Brandon Williams gone to Norwich from United, who could be a good factor. You've got Livramento, you've got Duffy. So absolutely. That was my kind of logic. I feel a bit stupid because I did White to Livramento sort of on Sunday because I thought
snap.
Did you? Yeah, okay, the same move. So I thought Ben White was going to go down, so I moved it.
Yeah, so did I. He hasn't yet.
No, he hasn't yet. But then on Monday night, I then moved Barnes down to Ben Rama, so I could actually have gone up from Ben White rather than down. So I could have.
Yeah, but I still think. I don't know. I still think going down was the right thing to do. Like I could have gone up because I've also done the Ben Rama move as well.
Yeah.
Although not from Barnes, I've done it from Smith Rowe. But I still could have gone up, and I did look at going up. But equally, I was kind of like, I like the look of Livramento. I like the fact there's some attacking play. I don't want to play lots of defenders. Like my strategy this season has been to go with my attacking players more than it is. So I really need three defenders, and then 2 playing defenders for my bench.
My thinking as well. Yeah, because you want to put the money into there's so many good midfield and forward spots. And even 100%. Forwards, I mean, I know we were looking at like the likes of Tony, for example, at 6'5", who hasn't really been delivering. So you're looking at maybe doing something like Lukaku, Calvert-Lewin and Antonio. But that's now quite a pricey front three that you've got, especially when you've got Fernandes and Salah and stuff. So the first place you need to take money out has to be the defence. And if you don't lose Trent, you've got to go down to these 4 million options. And they're a bit of a gift, I think.
Yeah, they are. Totally. I totally agree. And, I've got... Is Ben still in? I've still got Deeney in my team at the moment. Because I just wanted to go with a cheap forward option. Watford had like 1,000 of them. Yep. So it was difficult to pick which one was going to be the starting option. And Deeney, I was like, well, look, he's going to get some game time. I only really need him to get a minute here, a minute there. And that'll be enough to have a point coming off the bench if needed. But I am now looking slightly kind of longingly at that 7.5, 8 forward option, thinking I would really like to find some budget to take him up. And so taking some of my defenders down to these playing 4.0s feels like a no-brainer if it's going to mean that my third striker is also guaranteed to play and start every week.
Yep. You got to love FPL. We spent longer debating 4.0 defenders than we did Lukaku and Kane.
That's FPL for you.
Love this game. So yeah, Tom and I did a captaincy video yesterday. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. We had some good stats on that, and Tom obviously knows his stuff a lot better than me. Not necessarily better than you, but Tom is very, very
better
good.
than me.
He's better than everyone. He's one of the best around. But yeah, I mean, lots of talk around captains this week. Son, for example, was someone that I think a lot of people were looking to get in and captain this week, but a few hamstring issues. Dele Alli now potentially on penalties. There's a bit of a worry about him. Antonio is now looking like the clear favourite. You've also got Fernandes. At Brian on Twitter asked about Callum Wilson as a potential sort of left field captaincy option when there isn't really a major standout. So how are you feeling about captains? If you could captain anyone this week, who do you think you'd go for?
I think Antonio is the standout. I'm going Son at the moment. I have a general rule of life that says if I'm in a football stadium, I captain somebody I can watch. Don't know why. It's always been what I've done. So I'll be at Spurs on Sunday. So I only own Son and Deeney who are playing in that game. So
don't fancy a Deeney captain?
If he was going to play 90 minutes, maybe, but he might get 9. So I think, Son for me, Dele Alli's numbers against Watford are really good. He's never blanked at home to Watford in the Premier League in the 4 games that he's played against them. And across the 9 in total, his returns against them are really good. Obviously, won the penalty, took the penalty. I have slight doubts that he's on penalties because, of course, if Kane does stay and plays, he's on penalties. And it seems to be a little bit like if Kane's not there, you win it, you take it at the moment. I actually really like Lukaku this weekend as well. I think he's being really overlooked because of the Leicester performance on Monday night. they are going to want to bounce back from what was a disaster, let's be honest, against West Ham. And it's a really nice fixture against Norwich.
And he's the one that starts when there's so much uncertainty on everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah, and he'll start. He will be the one that they're looking to feed. I think he could have a really good game against Norwich this weekend. So I think he could be a good captaincy option who is massively overlooked by the community.
I triple captain Vardy against Norwich a few seasons ago.
Did you?
I did. I went for I went for a single game week player because Leicester were absolutely flying and Norwich were terrible, and he got an assist. He actually scored.
I mean, then he just.
I watched it. He scored, and I was celebrating, and then he was up to free bonus, and then it went down as an own goal, so he got an assist and lost his bonus. Nightmare.
Yeah, it is difficult. I think, Callum Wilson was mentioned there. I actually do think he might be a good shout this weekend. Again, what I love about this game...
Against our boy Livramento.
Well, I know, but he could just get a goal, couldn't he, at the other end?
Yeah. Well,
that makes it up for it. So, definitely. Yeah. I just think that this week, last week, it was your captain Bruno, your captain Salah. There wasn't a lot of other conversation to be had amongst the community. Game week 3... there's a lot of conversation, and I this is one of the weeks I love about FPL, when there's not a standout captaincy option and you basically have free reign then to feel like you can pick whoever you want. Antonio looks good, Son looks good. I'm not too worried about his hamstrings. He's been pictured and filmed running in training this week, so I don't think that there's an issue there. Callum Wilson, Jamie Vardy, there are a number of really good Premier League players who are regularly returning points over the course of multiple seasons that you could captain.
I had it on
and we
Barnes.
shouldn't rule out Fernando's.
Yeah,
I had it on Barnes.
I had it on Barnes until I sold him, because he was awful. Before the game week, I was thinking this Norwich game is one that I want to target. And literally all the worst things happened because Benrahma was sensational, Leicester were awful, Barnes was terrible, and I had to sell him. And now he's not really an option. But yeah, I think I would have gone for if Leicester had put in a fairly decent performance, Barnes had come away looking fairly decent, I think he probably would have been the one I'm going for, and I've ended up selling him. It's amazing how quickly just one day, one match can
how
change.
fickle you are, how
fickle I am. Exactly. Yeah, so I'm probably going into this weekend with 3 West Ham players and my captain on Antonio. What can possibly go wrong in that, who
would have thought? I remember kind of getting to the end of last season and really loving owning the double up at West Ham, actually the treble up, because I had Creswell as well at that point. Treble West Ham, and it was great. Lingard, Antonio, Creswell, brilliant. Then, of course, Lingard returns to Manchester United, and I remember in pre-season feeling really unsure about West Ham and whether I should invest in them, and obviously listen to what Mark was saying about Benrahma, but I still wasn't convinced that West Ham would be the same without Jesse Lingard. So much so that I nearly went without Antonio and I nearly went Danny Ings instead, but decided to stick with Antonio, and thank goodness I did. But Benrahma has been everything that they needed to replace Jesse Lingard. He's on such good form. I know that he was gifted the goal by Soyuncu's mistake on Monday night, giving the ball to Antonio, who then fed Benrahma, but they're just on unbelievable form. So having all three of them makes a lot of sense, and captaining Antonio makes a lot of sense, and out there captaincy on Benrahma makes sense to me too.
Yeah, well, I think what we're starting to see with Antonio and Benrahma is what we've seen in the past with Fraser and Wilson, Son and Kane. This partnership, they know where each other are without looking up. Benrahma assisting Antonio for that goal. That pass was absolutely incredible, and then Antonio wins the ball back and barely even has to look up, knows Benrahma's going to be bursting into the box and does the same. So when you get that, it's really difficult to overlook it, because know your 2 players are going to be assisting and setting each other up, and when that happens, you're getting points from both of them. So that's another reason why I ended up going for Benrahma. His stats aren't amazing, but when it's exactly it's Lingard 2.0. You only have to watch the game to see the influence that he's having for West Ham, and Lingard was the same. So it's one of those ones where you can't just base everything on stats. You can't just say, his XG is low, so I'm not going to get him. There's more to it. The partnership, the getting the ball to him, the form, the confidence, everything is right up there, and the fixtures as well. Palace and Southampton next. Yeah, he's a no-brainer, Benrahma. He had to come in. Okay, I've got a slightly wider question for you now, Sam. Baines on Toast asks about FPL price changes. He asks if there is time for an overhaul. Casual Player says he would prefer a system where price changes are related to points scored rather than ownership trends. As a bit of people are a little bit miffed about, White not going down, for example, when we thought he would. Players like Lukaku sort of, not going up because it looks like he's been locked. I guess the thing is we rely on these kind of external sites to tell us about price changes. Official FPL deliberately doesn't give us that information because they obviously want to have some sort of control over what happens and things. Do you like that system, or do you think maybe would you prefer to see it maybe done in a different way?
I don't mind it, I've got to be honest. Like, I quite like the fact that if you are an FPL player and you engage with the game and you keep up to date with the community and, like you say, the external places that give you this information, that you have a bit of an advantage. Like, I like the fact that you can gain that insight. If you bother to look for it, you can get that insight, and that helps you to inform your team, build your team value, which will enable you to have better players eventually later on in the season. And particularly in this early stages of the season, to me, maintaining a 0.1 or gaining a 0.1 is so important. And it's the one thing that over the first 4 weeks, I'm not worried about my rank at all. I'm simply worried about getting as much value as I can from my team, not letting my players drop in value, and bringing in players that are going to gain in value. So Ben White not dropping, it's a bit annoying because he did look like he was going to, but equally, he probably will over the next week or so. I can't believe that he will get, well, he's not going to play against Manchester City, we don't think, and then he'll get more sales on the back of that, I'm absolutely sure. So eventually he will go down, and Livramento will become increasingly popular and will eventually take a rise. So I feel like I've covered myself well from that perspective. But do I think it should be done on points scored? The trouble is that there are some players out there that really pass the eye test that just don't quite get into the swing of it straight away. And I suppose it gives you the advantage to bring them in when you first spot them before they make their moves. But I don't know, I think going by popular options, to me, it works. But maybe that's just because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah, you don't like change.
Yeah, I don't really like change.
Livramento's an example because he's approaching the price rise bracket. I think he's like 90% or something on some of the tools. Obviously hasn't scored any points yet, but he's someone that people have identified and Engage managers have identified. So if it was done on points, he would be nowhere near.
Yeah.
So I think the ownership thing is, it kind of works both ways. I think that the big question to me is around transparency, and should FPL be more transparent with price rises? Kind of, there's all these external tools that people use. I wonder if there would, people I think people want there to be more transparency, to see, to basically have that information on the website to kind of know when players are going up. But
I just love the fact it's not. I love the fact that, so like, obviously, for everyone that I engage with from an FPL family perspective, they are fully engaged in the community and it's great, right? But against my family and my friends in our kind of mini league, they have no idea about who's going up in price, who's going down in price. It gives me a massive advantage. And I love that about the game. I love the fact that you can, by taking some time out to look at the stats and engaging, that you get a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, I think, I get it. Yeah, I think it just confuses me. I think that's what I don't like about it, is that I find, if it was like a certain amount of like net transfers or a certain percentage of ownership or something that triggered the rise, then it would make sense. But to me, I find it difficult to know when a player's going to go up or not. Like, I was so sure Ben White was going to go down. And then obviously he got the flag, and then it kind of reset everything back. And it just annoys me that I don't fully understand it. But again, that is a deliberate decision that FPL have taken.
I just love it. I love it.
And I think lots of people do have different views on it. So FANTEAM, for example, I spoke about at the start, that goes on performance. So the price rises are completely based on performances. So I think last season Trent went down to about 5.5 or something, because the first half of the season he was awful, so his prices kept going down and down and down. It had nothing to do with ownership, because no one even owned him anymore. But because he was doing so bad, he went down, and so he became that really cheap price. So it's interesting. I think lots of people have got different views on it. I don't personally mind, but maybe a bit more transparency would be nice. Final question. Yes.
Before you say anything, have you seen Harry Kane's tweet?
I have not seen Harry Kane's tweet.
Harry Kane's just tweeted to say he's going to stay at Spurs this summer, and I feel like I want to have a little party.
Gonna start. So start against Watford.
So there you go. So I suspect that Watford will have to deal with Harry Kane, with the Spurs fans absolutely loving it. So that Lukaku conversation comes round again, because now you've got Harry Kane, who's taken 2 price drops, staying at Spurs, committing to the club, back with Sonny.
Maybe it's best you are on the bench this weekend, Ben. Don't be up against Harry Kane. It is funny though, isn't it? I mean, this all happened because of that Grealish signing. I think Kane was, I do think he threw his toys out the pram a little bit. And then they signed Grealish, and then suddenly he puts that statement out, which is saying, I have been training. I've been really good, honestly. Don't hate me.
It's difficult, right? Because, so obviously, I love Harry Kane more than most other people on the planet. But I absolutely understood it. And had he gone, I wouldn't have felt bad that he'd gone, if you know what I mean. Like, I would have been no animosity there. I would have just been like, yeah, I get it. Like, we've not done what you needed us or wanted us to do over the last few seasons. And I feel that pain too, by the way, but I get why you're doing it. But the way the season and the summer has panned out, there was a point early on, pre the Euros, where I thought he was definitely going to go. And then the Euros happened, and then the Grealish stuff was happening. And the more it was kind of rumbling on, the more I was thinking, this just doesn't feel like it's gonna happen now. And then he randomly started reposting pictures of him in training again. And I thought, yeah, there's a bit of a working to build relationships again here. And even at the weekend, like, there was a lot of talk in the press about him going to wave to the Spurs fans, and that must mean he's saying goodbye again. And I was like, no, I didn't. End of last season, that felt like goodbye. What against Wolves last weekend, that didn't. And now rebuilding the relationship is exactly how I describe it. I think exactly. That's what he's doing.
I think he knew once they signed Grealish that move wasn't going to happen. I just didn't see City going out and spending another 150 million or whatever it would be.
I think they've got it. They haven't got the money to do that. Well, not really.
Well,
not to invest that much in a player. Like, I think if they were going to get him, they got to offload a couple of other players to do it. And they tried, didn't they? It seems like they were trying to send them to Spurs, and they didn't want to come, which, fair enough.
And Grealish is more of an investment, right? He's 25.
Yes.
He's probably got 7 or 8 years in him. Kane's probably got, 4 years maybe, right at the top of his game. Top. So, yeah, it always didn't feel like that was going to happen. But yeah, it's that's big news for Spurs. And I think as well, Nuno has done really well, because I think he's managed that situation well. Putting him on the bench against Wolves, I think was
so much respect for Nuno.
And getting the win against City, I think there's been enough positive signs now for this to have transpired. So yeah, massive credit to Nuno, because I wasn't sure how that was going to go with him being appointed.
So now will you be buying Kane ahead of the game at the weekend?
Well, no, I won't be buying him, but he's gonna. I don't know whether he's a. I mean, the good thing is I haven't got to change the graphic on this stream, because he's in a Spurs shirt, so that saves me a job, which is always nice. I mean, there's still a little bit of a concern, I guess, over whether he'll start or not against Watford. But if he starts and he gets a couple of goals, he's going to be someone that we suddenly has entered back into the thinking. It's what we need. It's what I said. It's what we need. We need decisions to be made. We need,
Can feel a wild card coming on though.
Yeah, exactly. I think it could be. I think there very much could be. People have got 7 earmarked, but if Kane's in, if say Fernandes blanks again against Wolves, or I don't know. We could be changing everything up. It's very interesting. Right, I think we'll leave it there, Sam. I think we'll leave it on a high with your news about
hurrah
about Spurs.
Happy Sam.
Happy Sam. Yeah, that's really nice. Just to give a shout out to the members area on Fantasy Football Scout. We got 20% off. Still, it's the last chance to get that off the membership. So head over to the site. You've got the members articles. You've got the members stats tables. You've got the transfer planner. Loads of other great stuff over there. So if you're not a member already and you enjoy this kind of content and you want to support the site or get involved in the tools and everything, head over to that. But Sam, thank you so much. I will see you next week for the next Q&A.
And you will press go live next time, won't you?
Yeah, hopefully I've pressed it this time. I mean, I can definitely see there is chat. So yeah, I can't believe I did that. I don't know what's wrong with me. No, that won't happen. I'll be back to full fitness next week, I'm sure.
Excellent.
Thanks for watching, everyone.